And now for something completely different.
There are no safe spaces here. The truth shall make you free. So you want the truth, but can you handle the truth? And what did we learn? Well, here's another fine mess you've gotten us into.
The Craig L. Hayes Show. Just thinking, where we talk about everything else. Well, hello everybody. Hello America, family, friends, and listeners all around this planet we call home. This is Just Thinking, the Craig L. Hayes Show. Welcome. It's July 16th, 2026, and we are back. I've been gone away from this mic for a couple months, and have not really done a whole lot on this because I've been working on other projects and other things around the house. And, you know, they say you have plenty of time to do things you want to do when you're retired, but hold on one second. I had a fan blowing on me. I had to go turn it off. Actually, point it away. There, that's not so bad. Don't mind being cool, but that was a little bit much. Anyways, folks, it is so good to be back. Love to hear my voice being recorded once again so I can put on the show and annoy everybody possible, especially on the left, especially Democrats who call themselves socialists, which are actually just communists. But we're going to talk about that in another time. Right now, I have two topics I'm going to talk about, one of them one at a time. But the first one today is going to be on the industrial complexes of America. You know, I love listening to Democrats talk about things such as, well, the military-industrial complex, it was warned by, Eisenhower warned us it would be, so detrimental. Yeah, let's talk about some other industrial complexes. They sit there and constantly want to take and use your money, your freedom, and use it against you so that they can make money for themselves and increase their power. How about let's start with something simple that the Democrats worship at the altar of, the education industrial complex. Well, Craig, what do you mean? Your schools are just controlled by states and stuff. So how can that? No. To a certain degree, you are correct. But more and more federal fluence is being exercised over those schools. And now the kids are basically being indoctrinated. They're not, these kids aren't even learning. Democrats, you're all scumbags. Can't stand you. You've destroyed the greatest education system in the world and turned it into nothing but an industrial complex, indoctrination complex, to be good little Democrats and vote for us. Thank you. I know that it doesn't take much of an IQ to be a Democrat. You're low IQ people to start with. I don't know any high IQ Democrats per se, because it's not required. In fact, it goes completely against who you are and what you believe in if you are high IQ, because there's nobody with a high IQ that can fall for the crap the Democrat Party puts out and actually believe it, unless you're working towards turning this country into a communist nation. Teachers union controls so much of the education complex. Dollars are spent, massive amounts. 50% of a budget of a state goes to education, teaching kids to read and write. And kids graduate after 12 years not able to read or write. Fail, fail, fail. Once again, Democrats' ideology comes before the benefit to the nation. They don't care about you. They don't care about your kids. As long as they get voted for and they have power and they can control your life, that's all they care about. Other one is the medical industrial complex. How many years did Democrats fight to try to take over completely the medical industry, medical industrial complex, and turn it into a federal mandated benefit slash requirement slash we'll take and put the laws in there and tell you what you can and can't have as far as medical care. How many years did they have this? Well, in my lifetime, of 64 years, the entire time. They just finally accomplished it under Obama. And under the guise of it's going to bring down the costs and it won't cost the taxpayers anything like this, but the hundreds of billions of dollars that we're still pumping into it, I thought it was going to bring down the costs and not keep on requiring us to put hundreds of billions of dollars into it to pay for other people's medical care. Fail, fail, fail. Once again, you got what you wanted. The communists always said we got to take over the education systems, we got to take over the medical systems. You've accomplished that, and you've marched closer to communism. In America, though we oppose it, we don't like it, it gets shoved down our throat anyway. How about, you can just see, because everything that they do is about, controlling everybody. How about the pharmaceutical companies part of that medical industrial complex? Why is it that so many things in Washington, D.C. had people working in the industry, people working in pharmaceuticals, medical, every aspect of it. And you know what they did? They would get to a certain point, they would go work for the federal government, put in rules, regulations, and help usher in laws that protected their industry, and then they'd go back to their industries and profit from everything they had just done that protected them and their cronies. That's not capitalism. Do things that they've destroyed right there. How is it? How has the federal government controlling education benefited the American people when kids cannot read and write when they graduate from high school? How has the American people benefited from the federal government taking over medical care, and now medical care is 5 times more expensive than when they said it would lower costs? And these corporations that said, yeah, we'll work with you on this, these medical insurance companies are making 5 times the profit they did before Obamacare. Wow, it's almost as if it wasn't about the American people. It was about Democrats making sure that their friends in the medical industry, insurance companies, benefited and kept the money flowing to their campaigns. Because that's what it's always about for Democrats. Give you guys something, but we need you to give us money back to do more of these laws and protect you guys. But the two I really wanted to talk about today are NGOs. Democrats, when President Trump became president and Elon Musk went in and started finding all these things that were going on, especially through the State Department, around the State Department, these NGOs that were being paid billions and billions of dollars to fund things such as transvestite or transgender crap in Uganda, stuff all over the world to the tunes of billions and billions of dollars. And President Trump shut that all down. He shut it down, and Democrats went apoplectic. So we're going to call these NGOs that did nothing and still do nothing but make tons of money the NGO industrial complex. Because they exist solely to collect money from the federal government to put out a couple dollars to these things that they say they are going to do all around the world, especially USAID. That's the one they totally lost their minds over, because that was the one that was the big dollar one that brought in so much money to the Democrat Party. Because these NGOs then turn around and put all this money that's supposed to be going for the benefit of the people around the world, supposedly, and that money filters right back into the party or into dark, black money where no one can find out where the money came from. So they can go in and help elect Democrats. How is this beneficial? See, any program, everything that goes on in Washington, D.C., everything that happens back there, the simple question is this: how is this program, how is this cabinet, how is this whatever benefiting the American people? Not benefiting Democrats, not benefiting Republicans, not benefiting anybody in Washington, D.C., but how is it benefiting the American people as a whole, not as specific groups? And it doesn't. None of this is a benefit to anybody in America other than Democrats in raising money for their party for power. That's it. So don't tell me about how these things benefit and people are going to die all over the world if we don't do this. Well, you know, it's not our job to protect people all around the world from dying because we're not giving them money to go buy something at a store or go pay for the money to feed them or to give them a drug or whatever. It's not our job. That we do it is because of the kindness and mercy of our hearts. Because as a Christian, and I'm saying it very simply because I want all you Muslims and all you atheists and everybody else to understand, as a Christian nation, based on Judeo-Christian beliefs and principles, we have a foundation of helping our brother. But it is not incumbent on the government to take our money to do that for us. It is incumbent on us to do it as true believers in the gospel of Jesus Christ. And I was specific about Muslims because I don't care for the Muslims in so many ways, but we're going to talk about that in a little while too. I have another episode on that, on how Muslims, the Islam so-called religion, is not even a religion, it's a political movement. But that's going to be later. And we're going to take and go into details on stuff. It's very simple. My philosophy anymore is called like Charlie Kirk's. He's much nicer about it than I am, and God bless him for doing so. But his philosophy always go hard. In other words, put the truth out there and go hard about it and don't care about the consequences. And I don't. I could care less about any of the consequences. So another one of the industrial complexes, how about this one? The censorship industrial complex. Well, what does that mean? We're not allowed to have censorship in this country. Oh, you're right. You are absolutely correct. It's censorship, and censorship, let's just define it very simply. Government is not allowed to censor people. Now, businesses, if they don't want things said in their businesses or by their employees about the business, they can censor you all they want. It's a private entity. But we're going to go back into 2020 and 21 and 22 when Joe Biden, the Democrats, and the Department of Justice, CIA, and everybody else, FBI, were using and directing Twitter, Google, YouTube, Facebook, and all the other ones, Instagram, whoever it was out there, that if anybody spoke out anything against what Joe Biden, the walking and barely mumbling vegetable, was putting out there and promoting and trying to get implemented, that they were to be pushed off these social media sites. We know that because the Twitter file said so. So the Democrats can say, no, that didn't happen. Well, it did. It absolutely did, and it's been proven over and over again. And people say, well, they're a private company. Yeah, well, they're a private company, but if the government is directing them to do something and they do it, then it's the government and them that should be held responsible and liable for violating people's rights, First Amendment rights. Well, as a private business, they can censor anybody they want. Well, you're correct. You could if you were just putting out information out there and you found it to be very dangerous as far as people threatening on, say, Facebook or something like that, threatening other people, yeah, you can censor that. But when people are putting out opposition information, improving that the COVID stuff was the biggest lie ever perpetuated upon the American people, and the cover up that the federal government and all the social media and everybody else in the medical industry provided for the government, and they cover it up with telling social media companies, you have to put this down, you have to silence people. Okay, well then you're no longer a publicist out there. You're just you've become a publisher when you're doing that, and publishers can be held liable. But they can't unless as a social media company, because they've been given exemptions from prosecution by the federal government as long as they didn't act as a publisher. If they were just out there putting out if they're notice boards, if you could post whatever you wanted, barring threatening people, threatening violence, stuff like that. People are sitting there calling each other jerks and stuff like that, or saying, the government's, covering up all the truth about COVID, and you censor that, now you've become a publisher, and you are open to liability. But if you're just letting people say whatever they want to, then you were not subject to any kind of liability and prosecution of violating people's rights. But they did it anyway under the direction of the federal government, and don't trust any of the social media companies. They all lie to you. They all will take and throttle down your broadcast. They'll throttle down everything. I have not seen that happen to me yet, but I don't have a very big footprint. But if I ever got big like a Joe Rogan and I started putting this stuff out here, you better damn well believe they would take and shut me down, or find ways of suddenly making my stuff not available, or the algorithm would take and go completely against me, because they're all corrupt. They're all there to protect the good old boy network within the federal government, which still exists. Just because there's a new sheriff in town doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It just means it's scaled back a little bit. But if we ever get another Democrat, a Newsom or anything like that, you better damn well believe your freedom of speech is going to be destroyed, because Democrats hate freedom of speech, because they cannot defend and they cannot back up anything that they believe in, because nothing they believe in actually works. Nothing that they promote works. If it does, can you show me the benefit to the American people on any of it? Well, we got stuff like Social Security, yeah, which is going to go bankrupt here in about 6 to 10 years. Good job. Another thing of taking 15% of people's money, putting it into a system, and giving them less than somebody that put money into a pension, like I had 11% into a pension. I get twice as much from a pension, putting less into, than I do from a federal pension on Social Security, putting 15% in. Wow. How could that possibly work? Well, one is private, and one is the federal government just taking all the money out of it and using it everywhere else. Trillions of dollars gone. Same thing with Medicare. Remember Obamacare we were talking about? Did you know that Obamacare took almost $1 trillion out of Medicare to fund it the first year so they could sell it to the American people? And you know who supported them and defended them? AARP, American Association of Retired Persons. They, who sit there and say we are the biggest defender of the elderly and for their benefits that they've worked for and paid for in the nation, they supported taking almost $1 trillion out of Medicare, that's supposed to be for the elderly, and putting it into a general fund for Obamacare to pay for it. And now Medicare, we understand, is going to be somewhere around 10 to 12 years, and it's going to be bankrupt. Probably would have lasted a little bit longer had we not taken that $1 trillion out and thrown it into Obamacare, which is going, right in the toilet and destroying the American medical industry. Once again, Democrats are doing their thing. It's not a benefit for the American people. Few people will benefit, but it's not going to be the American people as a whole. And Democrats love lying and deceiving to get what they want, to get more power, because that's all they care about. They don't care about you. They don't care about the American people. They don't care about anything except what can we do that'll give us more power, more control over the people that we supposedly represent. Those are just a couple of the industrial complex. Now, the military industrial complex, I have issues with them. Why do things cost so much? I mean, I know we have the most high-tech military in the world that does amazing. If you didn't learn that from Venezuelan Nicolas Maduro, being captured, taken out of there all within 30 minutes, and almost nobody was killed except, the people that needed to be killed. Then you'll understand how awesome our military actually is. But those people who make the systems and such, and then are crying that they don't have the capacity to keep up with demand, then why do you have the contract? Why do you have a contract and we're running out of Tomahawks? We're running out of all these different guided munitions, which are not easy to make, but why don't we have plenty of them? We should have stockpiles and stockpiles of them. I know we didn't pay for them during Biden because Biden was too busy going, I like chocolate chip ice cream. We know that the Democrats hate the military. We know that the Democrats would love to spend that $1 trillion we spend on the military on Obamacare, probably. Something else that could be made completely worthless. Anything that's worthless, but it gives them more power. That's what they want. And the military doesn't give them any power. It's an obstacle that they hate and such. But why aren't we at capacities like we were in World War II? Why can't we make the munitions? Why can't we, third world countries like, China, Russia, all these other places are making munitions, Iran, all of them can make munitions and stuff for war at, 5, 10, 15 times the pace of America can. That's a bloody embarrassment. And that shows you the greed within the system instead of supplying the need. They have the greed, but they don't want to fulfill the need. And believe me, I believe they should be paid and be paid very well to take care of the things, but it's just not happening. And I'm kind of upset about that. But anyways, folks, those are just 4 of industrial complexes that I think we need to be aware of and understand that. Well, actually, we talked about 5 when we got back to the military-industrial complex, but there's lots of bad ones out there, and if the bottom line still comes down to this: does the thing the Democrats promote or the Republicans, is it beneficial for the American people? If the answer is not really, then why are we doing it? Because it's beneficial to the political parties. That's the only reason. So anyways, folks, that's all I have for right now. But I am going to be back with some more because I'm getting fired up and I'm wanting to talk a little bit about a bunch of different things. So until then, you've been listening to the Craig L. Hayes Show. Just thinking.